My wife's girls' trip included my dad. I pretended not to know for 6 months. My wife, Serena, posted an Instagram story from her Vegas girls' trip. 7 women at a pool party, champagne everywhere, typical bachelorette party energy even though no one was getting married. What she didn't notice in the background of her video, my father's distinctive tattoo on a man's arm reaching for a drink at the bar behind them. The tattoo was impossible to mistake. A compass with our family name and the coordinates of my childhood home. He got it after my mom died, said it would always guide him back to what mattered. Apparently, what mattered now was following my wife to Vegas. I screenshot everything before she deleted it 20 minutes later. She called that night, hammered and giggly, having so much fun with the girls. Michelle's being crazy. In the background, I heard a man's laugh, deep, familiar, the same laugh that taught me to ride a bike. Sounds fun, I said. Tell Michelle I said hi. My dad texted me 2 hours later. Working late on the Mendoza contract. Might need to stay overnight in the city. The Mendoza contract closed 3 months ago. I decided to document everything without confronting them. This wasn't about rage or heartbreak anymore. It was about curiosity. How long had this been going on? How stupid did they think I was? The signs had been there for months. Dad's sudden interest in yoga after Serena became an instructor. Their matching Apple Watches. Total coincidence, they said. The way Serena started using Dad's specific phrases like, let's circle back on that, and touch base offline. Week 1 of knowing. Serena came home with a story about trying some amazing wine in Vegas that she wanted to find locally. I pulled up the winery's website. This one? It's from that vineyard Dad visited last spring for his golf trip. Her face twitched. Really? What a coincidence. Week 3, Dad invited us for dinner. I watched them actively avoid each other, overcompensating with fake formality. Serena called him Mr. Thompson all night. She'd called him Rick for 10 years. Dad barely looked at her, staring at his plate like it held nuclear codes. Week 8, they got sloppy. Serena's location showed her at a downtown hotel during her supposed book club. Dad's car was in the same parking garage. His GPS still synced to my phone from when I helped him set it up. I started leaving breadcrumbs to see if they'd notice. Put Dad's favorite coffee in our kitchen. Serena made it perfectly without asking how he liked it. Left a Father's Day card on the counter in January. She moved it to my office without questioning why it was there. Week 12, family dinner for my birthday. My brother flew in from Seattle. My sister brought her new boyfriend. Dad and Serena sat at opposite ends of the table like magnets repelling each other. My brother pulled me aside. Is it just me, or is Dad acting weird around Serena? You notice too? I said, loud enough for both to hear. They both choked on their drinks. Week 16, Serena started therapy for her anxiety. Dad joined a gym for his health. They were building alibis for their guilt, creating cover stories for their behavior changes. I started couples counseling with Serena, told the therapist I felt like she was hiding something. Serena cried, said she felt so guilty about keeping secrets. The therapist encouraged her to open up when ready. Serena promised she would soon. That night she texted Dad. He doesn't know anything. I saw it on her iPad that still synced to her messages. Week 20, Dad called me crying. I need to tell you something about me and Serena. Finally, I thought, the confession. We're planning a surprise party for your 40th. She's been helping me coordinate everything. I know it's months away, but we wanted it perfect. The lie was so elaborate, so unnecessary. They'd rather fabricate an entire party than admit the truth. Week 24. I filed for divorce and sued my father for alienation of affection. Served them both at the surprise birthday party they'd actually planned, using it as cover for their affair. The room full of friends and family watched Serena open the envelope. Dad's face went from confused to horrified as he read his summons. The party banner reading, "Surprise," became inadvertently perfect. You knew? Serena gasped. I pulled up her deleted Vegas video on the TV, zoomed in on Dad's tattoo. Since day 1, Dad stammered. But you never said anything. I wanted to see how long you'd lie to my face. 6 months. You both lied to my face for 6 months. My brother stood up. What the hell is going on? Ask Dad about his Vegas business trip. Or Serena about her book club at the Marriott. The room exploded. My sister threw wine in Dad's face. My brother had to be physically restrained. Serena's parents looked ready to commit murder. Serena tried to explain. We didn't mean for it to happen. You planned an entire fake party to cover for it. That seems pretty intentional. Dad reached for me. Son, please. Full story, linked below. I stepped back from his reaching hand. The party guests stood frozen, processing what they'd just witnessed. My sister was still dripping with the wine she'd thrown, her face twisted in disgust. My brother's girlfriend held him back, whispering urgently in his ear. Serena's mother broke the silence first. She crossed the room in 3 quick strides and slapped my father hard across the face. The crack echoed through the room. Dad stumbled backward, his hand going to his reddening cheek. "How dare you?" she hissed. "My daughter trusted you. We all trusted you." Serena's father grabbed his wife's arm, pulling her back. His face was stone, but his knuckles were white where he gripped her. I'd never seen him angry before. He'd always been the calm one, the peacemaker. Not today. My brother broke free from his girlfriend's grip and lunged at Dad. They crashed into the gift table, sending wrapped boxes scattering across the floor. I watched them grapple, making no move to intervene. Let them fight. Let it all fall apart. "Stop it! Both of you!" Serena screamed. She tried to pull them apart, but my brother shoved her away. She stumbled, catching herself on a chair. My sister's boyfriend, a cop named Martinez, finally stepped in. He hauled my brother off Dad with practiced efficiency, pinning his arms. "That's enough. Everyone needs to calm down." Dad struggled to his feet, his shirt torn, lip bleeding. He looked around the room at the faces of family and friends, people who'd known him for decades. They all stared back with mixtures of shock, disgust, and betrayal. "I need to explain," he started. "Explain what?" My aunt, his own sister, stepped forward. "Explain how you could do this to your own son? Explain how you could destroy your family for what? SX? It wasn't like that," Serena interjected. "We fell in love. We didn't mean for it to happen." My brother laughed, bitter and sharp. "Fell in love? At her yoga class? Or was it during all those family dinners where you sat there pretending everything was normal?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the screenshots I'd collected. "Would you like to see the timeline? I have 6 months of evidence. Hotel receipts, text messages, location data. I particularly enjoyed the one where Dad called me boring and predictable. That was 3 days after I helped him set up his new phone." Serena's face crumpled. "You went through my messages? They synced to the iPad you gave me for Christmas. The one you forgot was still logged into your account." I showed her the screen. "Here's one from last Tuesday. You told Dad you loved him more than you ever loved me. At least you were honest with someone." My grandmother, Dad's mother, had been sitting silently in her wheelchair by the window. Now she wheeled herself forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Richard Thompson, you are no longer my son." The room went silent. Dad's face drained of color. "Mom, please. Your father would be spinning in his grave. You've brought shame on this entire family." She turned to me. "I'm changing my will first thing Monday morning. Everything goes to you and your siblings now." Dad sank into a chair, his head in his hands. Serena stood alone in the center of the room, mascara streaming down her face. The birthday banner hung mockingly above them. "We should go," Serena's father said quietly. He took his wife's hand, then looked at me. "We'll help however we can with the divorce. This is unforgivable." People started filing out, unable to look at Dad or Serena. My cousins, my parents' friends, neighbors who'd known us since I was a kid. They all left with mumbled excuses and avoided eye contact. Within minutes, the room had mostly emptied. My brother sat on the couch, holding an ice pack Martinez had gotten from the kitchen. His knuckles were already swelling. 6 months? You knew for 6 months and didn't tell me? What would you have done?" I asked. Struck the shit out of him sooner. He glared at Dad. "How could you? Your own son's wife?" Dad finally looked up. His face was haggard, aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "I don't expect you to understand. You're right. I don't understand. I will never understand." My brother stood. "I'm done. Don't call me. Don't text me. You're dead to me." He left with his girlfriend. My sister followed shortly after, but not before dumping the rest of the wine bottle over Dad's head. "That's from Mom," she said. "I know she's watching, and I know she's disgusted." Soon it was just the 4 of us. Me, Serena, Dad, and my grandmother. The catering staff hovered uncertainly by the kitchen, unsure whether to start cleaning up. "The house," Serena said suddenly. "What about the house?" "It's in my name," I said. "You have 72 hours to get your things and get out." "Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "Dad's place has room, though I'd check with Grandma first, since apparently it's going to be mine soon." Grandmother nodded grimly. "The condo too, and the lake house, all of it. Dad's inheritance, gone. 30 years of building his life after Mom died, erased in an afternoon. I felt a savage satisfaction at the justice of it. "You planned this," Serena accused. "The party, getting everyone here. You wanted to humiliate us. You planned the party, remember? I just chose the venue for truth." I gestured around the room. Though I have to admit, the surprise banner was a nice touch. Very appropriate. "How can you be so cold?" She was sobbing now, ugly and raw. "Didn't our marriage mean anything to you? Ask yourself that question. You're the one who was texting my father I love you while sleeping in my bed. We never meant—" "Stop saying that. You made choices. Every day for 6 months you chose to lie. You chose to betray me. You chose him." I turned to my father. "And you chose her over your family. Now live with it." I headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Dad? That compass tattoo?" The one about always finding your way back to what matters? Turns out what matters to you is screwing your son's wife. Mom would be so proud. I left them there in the ruins of the party, surrounded by scattered gifts and broken relationships. The catering staff could clean up the physical mess. The rest was their problem now. Outside, I found my brother smoking by his rental car. He never smoked except when severely stressed. "You okay?" he asked. "Better than I've been in 6 months." I meant it. The weight of carrying their secret, of pretending not to know, had been crushing. Now, it was over. "I can't believe Dad would. God, how long do you think it was really going on?" I showed him some of the messages. 8 months, maybe more. They got sloppy around month 6 when I started tracking them. He scrolled through the evidence, his face darkening with each revelation. Jesus, some of these are explicit. That's not even the worst of it. Check the dates on those hotel receipts. He looked closer. This one's from Mom's birthday, and that one's from my anniversary, and that one's from Father's Day. I laughed bitterly. They literally celebrated Father's Day by, "Okay, I get it." He handed the phone back. "What now?" "Now I rebuild. Without them. You need a place to stay? Seattle's nice this time of year." I shook my head. "The house is mine. They can figure out their own arrangements." "What about?" He gestured vaguely at the venue. "The divorce lawyers already filed the paperwork. Alienation of affection is still recognized in this state. Dad's going to pay. Literally." My brother stubbed out his cigarette. "Good. Take him for everything." We stood in silence for a moment. Cars were pulling out of the parking lot as the last guests fled the disaster inside. 6 months, though, he said quietly. That must have been hell. It was educational. I learned a lot about trust, about family, about how the people who claim to love you can look you in the eye and lie without blinking. Not everyone's like that. No, just my wife and my father. I checked my phone. "My lawyer's here. I need to go document everything while it's fresh. Want me to come with?" "No. Go back to Seattle. Live your life. Be happy." I clapped him on the shoulder. One of us should be. As I walked to my lawyer's car, I saw Dad and Serena through the venue windows. They sat at opposite ends of the room, as far apart as possible, the wreckage of the party between them. They'd destroyed everything for each other, and now they couldn't even look at one another. The surprise party had worked perfectly, just not the way they'd planned. The lawyer's car smelled like leather and disappointment. I slid into the passenger seat while he organized his briefcase in the back. Through the windshield, I watched my brother's rental car disappear down the street. The venue's parking lot emptied quickly, guests fleeing the disaster like rats from a sinking ship. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails piling up. I turned it off. The lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Chen, finally settled into the driver's seat. He glanced at me, then at the venue where the lights still blazed through the windows. I explained the situation while he drove. He took notes at red lights, asking clarifying questions about dates, evidence, financial records. His expression grew more serious with each detail. By the time we reached his office, he'd already outlined our strategy. The building stood empty on a Saturday evening. We took the elevator to the 14th floor, his shoes clicking against marble floors. In his office, I spread out 6 months of evidence across his conference table. Screenshots, receipts, location data, text transcripts. He examined each piece methodically, occasionally photographing documents with his phone. 3 hours passed. We built timelines, cross-referenced dates, organized evidence into admissible categories. Chen explained alienation of affection laws, property division, custody considerations. I signed retainer agreements, authorizations, disclosure forms. My hand cramped from writing, but I kept going. Around midnight, Chen leaned back in his chair. He'd removed his jacket hours ago, sleeves rolled up, coffee cups accumulating on the table. He looked at me with something between pity and admiration. I recognized the expression, the same one people gave cancer patients who kept showing up to work during chemo. We scheduled meetings for the following week. Chen would file the paperwork Monday morning, serve papers by Tuesday. He suggested I document any attempts at contact, change passwords on all accounts, secure important documents. I nodded along, making mental lists. The drive home felt surreal. Empty streets, traffic lights blinking yellow, the city asleep while my world burned. I passed the hotel where Dad and Serena met during her fake book clubs, the parking garage where I'd tracked their cars, the yoga studio where it probably started. My house sat dark except for the porch light. No cars in the driveway. Serena must have gotten a ride somewhere. I parked in the garage, sat in the car for a moment, preparing myself for whatever waited inside. The front door opened to silence. No scattered belongings, no angry notes, no dramatic gestures, just empty spaces where Serena's things used to be. Her yoga mat gone from the corner, her shoes missing from the rack. The coat closet held only my jackets. I walked through each room, cataloging absences, The bathroom counter cleared of her products, her jewelry box gone from the dresser, the closet half empty, hangers swaying slightly from recent disturbance. She'd been surgical, taking only what was clearly hers. In the kitchen, I found a note on the counter, her handwriting, careful and precise. I crumpled it without reading and threw it in the trash. Whatever she had to say could wait for lawyers. The house felt larger without her presence. Sounds echoed differently. The refrigerator's hum seemed louder. I made coffee, even though it was past midnight. Sat at the kitchen table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where she'd perfected making Dad's favorite coffee without me teaching her. My phone, when I finally turned it back on, showed 47 missed calls, 23 from Serena, 18 from Dad, 6 from various family members. I deleted the voicemails without listening, blocked both their numbers. The silence felt better than their excuses would. Sunday arrived with blazing sunshine that felt inappropriate for the circumstances. I woke on the couch, still dressed from the night before, coffee cold on the table, neck stiff from the awkward position. The doorbell rang before I could fully orient myself. My sister stood on the porch with grocery bags and a determined expression. She pushed past me without invitation, heading straight for the kitchen. I followed, watching her unpack eggs, bread, orange juice. She started making breakfast without speaking, movements efficient and angry. We ate scrambled eggs in silence. She'd brought enough food for a week, apparently planning to monitor my eating habits. After breakfast, she helped me gather Serena's remaining belongings. We found things in strange places. Her passport in the garage, old photos in the attic, a box of letters in the basement. The letters were from the early days of our relationship. Love notes, birthday cards, anniversary messages. I started to read one, then handed the box to my sister. She took it outside to the trash without comment. By afternoon, we'd sanitized the house of Serena's presence. My sister had brought boxes, labels, packing tape. We worked methodically, room by room. She asked no questions about the affair, the evidence, the confrontation, just helped me erase 13 years of marriage from my living space. Martinez arrived around dinner time with pizza and beer. He'd changed from his uniform into jeans and a t-shirt, looking uncomfortable in civilian clothes. We sat on the back deck, eating straight from the box, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of betrayal. He told me about the paperwork from the party venue, statements from witnesses, documentation of the altercation. Nothing serious enough for charges, but enough for records. He'd made sure the reports reflected the circumstances accurately. Professional courtesy, he called it. My brother called from Seattle while Martinez was there. Speakerphone on the deck table, his voice tinny and distant. He'd been fielding calls all day from extended family. Everyone wanted details, explanations, gossip to spread. He'd told them all to direct questions to me, knowing I wouldn't answer. The week that followed blurred together in meetings and paperwork. Chen's office became my second home. We filed for divorce, property division, restraining orders. The alienation of affection suit required different forms, different strategies. Chen brought in a colleague who specialized in such cases. Serena hired her own lawyer, a woman named Patricia Wong, who had a reputation for aggressive tactics. The first settlement offer came Wednesday. She wanted half of everything plus alimony. Chen laughed when he showed me the proposal. We countered with nothing. Let her explain the affair to a judge. Dad hired Marcus Fitzgerald, an old family friend who'd handled the estate when Mom died, the same lawyer who'd mediated during the fight with my brother 3 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Fitzgerald looked exhausted when we met for depositions, clearly uncomfortable representing Dad under these circumstances. The depositions took place in a sterile conference room downtown, court reporter typing every word, video camera recording everything. Serena wore a conservative dress I'd never seen before, hair pulled back, makeup minimal, playing the victim already. Her testimony painted me as cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. She claimed loneliness, neglect, a marriage that existed only on paper. When asked about the affair, she cried prettily, talking about finding comfort, making mistakes, never meaning to hurt anyone. Dad's deposition was worse. He painted himself as the supportive father figure who got too close while trying to help, claimed the physical relationship only started recently, lied about Vegas, said he was there for a conference, lied about the hotel meetings, called them lunch discussions about my birthday party. I gave my deposition last. Chen had prepared me well. Stick to facts, avoid emotion, let the evidence speak. I walked them through 6 months of documentation, every lie cataloged, every deception time-stamped. The court reporter's fingers flew across her keys, capturing the destruction of my family in real time. Afterward, in the parking garage, I passed Serena waiting for the elevator. We stood 10 feet apart, strangers who'd shared a bed for over a decade. She started to speak, then stopped. The elevator arrived. She got in. The doors closed. That was the last time I saw her outside of court. The financial audit revealed interesting details. Joint accounts showed patterns I'd missed. Regular cash withdrawals matching hotel stays. Purchases from lingerie stores I'd never seen her wear. Restaurant charges during her supposed therapy sessions. Chen added it all to our evidence files. My grandmother's lawyer called Thursday morning. She'd already changed her will, Dad's inheritance, the properties, the investments, the family heirlooms, all redistributed to grandchildren. An estimated $4 million he'd never see. The lawyer mentioned she'd also removed his photos from her mantle. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into spreadsheets and analysis, staying late every night. My colleagues knew something had happened, but respected my silence. My boss offered time off. I declined. Empty hours at home held no appeal. 2 weeks after the party, Chen called with news. Serena's lawyer had reached out about a meeting, not a settlement conference, something else. Wong wouldn't specify, just said it was important. Chen suspected a pregnancy announcement, a common tactic to complicate proceedings. We agreed to meet. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Chen's conference room again. I arrived early, reviewed our position with Chen. We'd prepared for various scenarios: pregnancy, fabricated abuse allegations, hidden assets. Chen assured me we could handle whatever they threw at us. Serena arrived with Wong and a third person, a woman I didn't recognize, mid-50s, professional dress, carrying a leather portfolio. Wong introduced her as Dr. Sarah Kim, a psychiatrist. My stomach dropped. Here came the mental health angle. Dr. Kim explained she'd been treating Serena for 3 months. The therapy Serena had mentioned wasn't for anxiety, it was for SX addiction. She'd been struggling with compulsive behavior, risky encounters, inability to control impulses. The affair with Dad was part of a larger pattern. Wong presented medical records, therapy notes, prescription histories. Serena had been diagnosed with hypersexuality disorder linked to childhood trauma. She'd hidden it throughout our marriage, self-medicating with affairs. Dad wasn't the first, just the first I'd caught. The revelation reframed everything. Every business trip she'd taken, every girls' night out, every yoga retreat. How many others had there been? Dr. Kim mentioned Serena had admitted to at least 12 partners during our marriage. Dad was number 13. Chen kept his expression neutral, but I saw his pen moving rapidly across his legal pad. This changed our strategy completely. Serena's lawyer was trying to use mental illness as a shield, make her sympathetic, but it also opened doors for us. Fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, questions about her fitness for any potential custody issues. I sat there absorbing this information while Serena stared at the table. 12 affairs. 12. Our entire marriage had been a lie from the start. The woman I'd loved, built a life with, planned a future with, she'd never existed. Just a character she played between encounters with strangers. Wong proposed a different settlement structure. Serena would forfeit claims to alimony in exchange for a larger property settlement. She needed intensive treatment, possibly residential. The house sale could fund her recovery. They painted it as the compassionate choice. Chen requested time to consider. We needed to verify the medical claims, review the implications. The meeting ended with awkward formalities. Dr. Kim shook my hand, said she was sorry for everything. I wondered if she knew about Dad's identity, if Serena had revealed that particular shame in therapy. Walking to the parking garage, Chen voiced what I was thinking. The diagnosis felt convenient, not necessarily false, but strategically timed. SX addiction was real, but also difficult to prove or disprove. We'd need our own experts, independent evaluations. That weekend, I met my brother at a bar downtown. He'd flown in from Seattle again, concerned about my isolation. We drank whiskey and avoided talking about family. He mentioned work, his girlfriend, plans to propose soon. Normal life continuing while mine imploded. After 3 drinks, he finally asked about the meeting with Serena's lawyer. I told him about the diagnosis, the 12 affairs, the treatment proposal. He stared at his glass for a long moment, processing. Then he signaled the bartender for another round. We drank until the bar closed, stumbled to his hotel, ordered room service, sobered up with coffee and greasy food. He crashed on the bed while I sat by the window, watching the city lights blur through exhausted eyes. Somewhere out there, Serena was sleeping. Dad was sleeping. The wreckage of our family scattered across the city. Sunday brought an unexpected visitor. Dad's brother, Uncle Tom, appeared at my door with a 6-pack and an apologetic expression. He'd driven 3 hours from his farm, compelled by family duty to check on me. We sat on the back deck, drinking beer in the afternoon sun. Tom had always been the quiet brother, married 35 years to his high school sweetheart, 3 kids, all successful, the stable one while Dad chased dreams and schemes. He didn't defend Dad, didn't make excuses, just sat with me in solidarity, occasionally shaking his head at the waste of it all. He told me about calls from Dad, desperate attempts to explain himself, how he'd fallen for Serena gradually, fighting it at first, how they'd bonded over caring for me, worrying about my work stress, how one night after I'd canceled dinner plans again, they'd had wine and talked too long and crossed a line. The story sounded rehearsed, crafted to minimize blame. Tom didn't buy it either. He'd seen Dad's patterns before, the way he'd pursued Mom when she was dating his friend, the affairs during their marriage she'd pretended not to know about, the women at her funeral eyeing each other suspiciously. Before leaving, Tom hugged me awkwardly, promised to stay in touch, said I'd always be welcome at the farm if I needed escape. His truck rumbled away, leaving me alone again with the ghosts of my marriage. The next month passed in legal procedures and empty evenings. Depositions expanded to include character witnesses. Friends chose sides. Some supported me, others disappeared, uncomfortable with the messiness. Our social circle fractured along invisible fault lines. Chen built our case methodically. The alienation of affection suit gained traction. Dad's assets were substantial, his betrayal clear. Serena's mental health defense complicated her position, but didn't excuse it. The court scheduled hearings, set timelines, ground forward with bureaucratic inevitability. I sold things that reminded me of them. The dining room set we'd bought together, the bedroom furniture, art from trips we'd taken. Each sale felt like surgery, cutting away infected tissue. The house grew emptier, but felt cleaner. My sister remained constant throughout. Weekly dinners, forced normalcy. She'd remarried recently. Her second husband, a quiet man who understood complicated families. They included me in their routines, refusing to let me disappear into work and solitude. One evening, while helping them paint their guest room, my sister finally asked the question everyone wondered. Why had I waited 6 months? Why document everything instead of confronting them immediately? I considered lying, giving the strategic answer about building a legal case, but she deserved truth. I told her about the numbness that set in after the initial discovery, the clinical curiosity that replaced rage, the need to understand the depth of deception before acting. She understood, said she'd have probably burned the house down immediately, but understood my way too. We painted in companionable silence after that, covering old walls with fresh color. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. Chen had negotiated brilliantly. I kept the house, most savings, retirement accounts intact. Serena got enough for treatment and a fresh start. No alimony, clean break. The judge seemed relieved to sign off on it, eager to move past our sordid drama. Dad's case took longer. The alienation of affection suit required jury trial. Chen prepared meticulously, organizing evidence into a narrative of betrayal. Fitzgerald tried various defenses, but the facts were too clear. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. The verdict came back in my favor. Substantial damages, though less than Chen had hoped. Enough to hurt Dad financially, force him to sell properties. Grandmother's disinheritance had already done worse damage. He'd lost more than money. He'd lost his identity as the successful son who'd made Mom proud. After the verdict, Dad approached me outside the courthouse, older-looking, grayer, diminished. He started to speak, but I walked past him to Chen's car. Whatever he needed to say, I didn't need to hear. Some bridges, once burned, weren't worth rebuilding. The months after the verdict crawled by in a haze of paperwork and empty rooms. I kept the house but sold most of the furniture, each piece carrying memories I didn't want to preserve. The dining room where we'd hosted family dinners became an empty space with marks on the hardwood where chair legs had rested for years. Work consumed my days. I arrived early, left late, buried myself in spreadsheets and quarterly reports. My colleagues stopped asking if I was okay. They'd learned to recognize the signs of someone using productivity as medication. My boss quietly reassigned my travel responsibilities, understanding without explanation why Vegas conferences were now impossible. 3 months post-verdict, I ran into Michelle at a grocery store. She froze in the cereal aisle, her cart half full of organic vegetables and wine. We stood there for an awkward moment before she approached, her face a mixture of guilt and concern. She explained how she'd had no idea about Vegas, how Serena had used her name as cover. The other women on the trip had been equally oblivious. Michelle had pieced it together only after the party disaster, when mutual friends filled in the gaps. She apologized repeatedly, though she had nothing to apologize for. I learned Serena had moved to Arizona for treatment, a residential facility specializing in behavioral addictions. Michelle had received one letter, asking for forgiveness and understanding. She hadn't responded. Neither had any of their other friends. Serena had burned every bridge in her pursuit of whatever she'd been chasing. Dad's situation proved more complicated. The financial hit from the lawsuit forced him to sell the family home, the house where I'd grown up, where Mom had planted roses in the backyard, where we'd celebrated 30 years of Christmases. A young couple bought it, planning to raise their children there. I drove by once and saw them painting the shutters a different color. Uncle Tom called occasionally with updates. Dad had moved into a small apartment downtown, taken a part-time consulting job to supplement his reduced assets. He'd aged visibly, Tom said. Stopped playing golf, stopped attending family gatherings. Even Tom's wife, who forgave everyone everything, couldn't bring herself to invite him for holidays. My siblings maintained their distance. My brother changed his phone number, made it clear through Tom that Dad shouldn't attempt contact. My sister went further, legally changing her last name to her husband's. She wanted no connection to the Thompson legacy Dad had tainted. The house felt different as seasons changed. Spring arrived with rain that leaked through a roof I'd been meaning to repair. I fixed it myself, spending weekends on a ladder, learning home maintenance skills Serena had always handled through contractors. Each small repair felt like reclaiming territory. Summer brought unexpected challenges. Our former couple friends didn't know how to include a divorced man in their barbecues and pool parties. Invitations dwindled. I understood. Nobody wanted the reminder that marriages could implode so spectacularly. I became the cautionary tale whispered about after the kids went to bed. Chen called one August afternoon with news. Serena's lawyer had reached out about finalizing some remaining financial details. She needed to sell her car, still technically in both our names. I signed the papers without reading them. Chen handled everything, protecting me from unnecessary contact. My grandmother's health declined as fall approached. The stress of the family destruction had taken its toll. I visited her assisted living facility twice a week, bringing her favorite cookies and sitting quietly while she worked crossword puzzles. She never mentioned Dad, but I noticed she'd replaced his photos with pictures of just the grandchildren. One visit, she grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Her eyes, clouded with age, focused intently on mine. She squeezed once, firmly, then returned to her puzzle. No words necessary, just acknowledgement of shared loss and the burden of carrying on. The holidays loomed like a threat. Thanksgiving required careful orchestration. My sister hosted, explicitly stating Dad wasn't welcome. We ate turkey and pretended the empty chair didn't exist. My brother called from Seattle, claiming work obligations. We all knew he just couldn't face the first major holiday with our family tree pruned so drastically. December brought unexpected mail, a card with no return address, Phoenix postmark. Inside, Serena's handwriting. I'm sorry. Getting help. Hope you find peace. No signature. I stared at it for a long moment, then fed it to the fireplace. Some apologies came too late to matter. Christmas passed in a blur of forced cheer. My sister's kids didn't understand why Grandpa Rick wasn't there, why Aunt Serena had disappeared. We crafted age-appropriate explanations about grown-ups sometimes needing space. The older one, perceptive at 8, didn't buy it, but stopped asking. New Year's Eve found me alone by choice. Friends had offered invitations, but celebrating felt false. I watched the ball drop on TV, nursing a single beer, thinking about how different life looked compared to 12 months ago. The clock struck midnight. Nothing changed. Time just kept moving. January brought a surprise encounter. Gloria Martinez, the night shift nurse from the hospital, appeared at my coffee shop one morning. She recognized me first, approaching with the same direct manner I remembered from the emergency room visits years ago. She asked how I was doing with genuine concern. Something about her presence, the way she'd seen our family at various vulnerable moments over the years, made me answer honestly. I told her about the divorce, the lawsuit, the family destruction. She listened without judgment, occasionally nodding. When I finished, she shared her own story. A husband who'd gambled away their savings, a daughter who'd struggled with addiction, a son who hadn't spoken to her in 5 years over money. Life's cruelties weren't unique, she said. Everyone carried secret wreckage. Before leaving, she squeezed my shoulder, reminded me that healing wasn't linear, that families could rebuild in different configurations, that sometimes destruction cleared space for healthier growth. Her words stayed with me longer than I expected. February arrived with news through Tom. Dad had been hospitalized with chest pains, stress-induced, not a heart attack, but enough to scare him. Tom asked if I wanted to know which hospital. I declined. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, no matter how many health scares tried to force the issue. My sister called that night, conflicted. Martinez had heard through police channels about Dad's hospitalization. She wondered if we should visit, if holding on to anger was worth potentially missing a final conversation. We talked for hours, ultimately deciding separately. She went. I didn't. Work offered a promotion that would require relocating to Chicago. More money, bigger responsibilities, a chance to start fresh where nobody knew my story. I spent weeks considering it, making pro and con lists, consulting with mentors. The opportunity to disappear into anonymity held appeal. Ultimately, I declined. Running wouldn't change what happened. The house, empty as it was, still felt like mine. The roots I'd grown over 40 years went deeper than one traumatic betrayal could fully sever. I'd rebuild here, on familiar ground, rather than starting over as a stranger. March brought the one-year anniversary of the Vegas discovery. I took the day off work, expecting to struggle with memories. Instead, I felt oddly neutral. The date held no special power anymore. Just another square on the calendar, no different from any other. My brother visited for the first time since the party. He'd gotten engaged, wanted me to meet his fiancée before the wedding. We carefully avoided mentioning Dad, focusing on the future rather than the past. His fiancée seemed kind, grounded, unaware of our family's full dysfunction. I envied her innocence. Spring cleaning revealed forgotten remnants, a receipt from the hotel where they'd met, a birthday card from Dad I'd never opened, Serena's yoga certification hidden behind old tax returns. I threw it all away without ceremony. The past didn't deserve preservation. April ended with unexpected news. Serena had completed treatment and moved to California. Started over with a new job, new therapist, new attempt at stability. Michelle had heard through mutual acquaintances. Part of me hoped she'd find whatever peace had eluded her here. Most of me just felt relief she was truly gone. The divorce had been final for months, but the alienation of affection case had triggered appeals. Fitzgerald filed motions arguing the judgment was excessive. Chen countered each one methodically. The legal system ground slowly forward, each hearing another reminder of betrayal. By May, I'd developed new routines. Saturday morning runs through the neighborhood, Sunday meal prep for the week, Wednesday drinks with colleagues who'd become actual friends. Life had reorganized itself around the absence, like skin healing over a wound. The second Father's Day since discovery approached with less dread than the first. My siblings and I had agreed to honor it differently now. We visited Mom's grave together, leaving flowers and sharing memories of the parent who'd never betrayed us. Dad's absence felt appropriate rather than painful. June brought the final legal resolution. The appeals court upheld the original judgment with minor modifications. Dad would pay over time, the amount adjusted but still substantial. Chen called it a victory. I called it an ending. The last official connection between us reduced to payment schedules. I started dating again, tentatively. A woman from my running group who didn't know my history. Coffee became dinner, became regular weekend plans. She had her own baggage, a messy divorce, shared custody challenges. We understood each other's caution, moved slowly, built something careful and honest. One evening, she asked about my family. I gave the abbreviated version. Parents gone, siblings distant but connected, typical modern complications. She accepted it without pushing. Everyone had stories they weren't ready to tell. Maybe someday I'd share the whole truth, maybe not. The house gradually filled with new things. Furniture I chose myself, art that reflected my taste alone, plants I had to learn to keep alive. Each addition made the space more mine, less theirs. The ghosts faded with each passing month. My grandmother passed quietly in her sleep that July. The funeral brought the family together one last time. Dad attended but sat in the back, leaving immediately after the service. My siblings and I stood graveside, united in grief and careful not to acknowledge his presence. Some wounds ran too deep for deathbed reconciliations. Her will distributed assets as promised. Dad received nothing beyond a letter she'd written months earlier. He opened it at the grave, read it once, then walked away with shoulders shaking. Whatever final words she'd left him, they'd broken something that was already fractured beyond repair. August marked 18 months since Vegas. The sharp edges had worn smooth. Anger had faded to indifference. The betrayal that once consumed every waking thought now surfaced only occasionally, usually triggered by unexpected reminders. A cologne sample that smelled like Dad's, a yoga studio advertisement, the word compass in casual conversation. I sold the house in September, not because of memories, but because it was too large for one person. Found a smaller place closer to work, with a yard that didn't require constant maintenance. The young couple who bought it had 2 kids and a dog. The life that might have been, sold to strangers who'd make their own memories. Moving day revealed final artifacts. Behind the water heater, a box of Dad's old tools he'd left during a repair visit. Under the attic insulation, photos from family vacations I'd forgotten existed. In the garage rafters, Serena's college textbooks. I donated everything. Other people's pasts didn't deserve space in my future. The new house felt right immediately. Smaller but sufficient. Mine entirely, with no shadows of what was lost. I hung pictures selectively. Mom prominent, siblings included, careful gaps where others used to be. Visitors wouldn't notice the absences. I'd trained myself not to see them either. October brought news through the family grapevine. Dad had started seeing someone, a widow from his apartment complex. Tom mentioned it carefully, watching for my reaction. I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no concern for a stranger dating a stranger. He'd moved on. So had I. Halloween passed without distributing candy. The new neighborhood skewed older, fewer children trick-or-treating. I watched from my window as the few costumed kids passed by, remembering years of coordinating family costumes, Dad carrying me on his shoulders, Serena making elaborate treats. The memories felt like scenes from someone else's life. November arrived with its threat of holidays. My siblings and I had established new traditions, Thanksgiving at my sister's, Christmas rotating between us, Dad permanently excluded from the invitation list. We'd adapted, reformed into a smaller but stable unit. The running group organized a turkey trot. My new relationship had progressed to meeting friends, sharing social circles. We ran together, not fast, but steady, crossing the finish line holding hands. Small victories in rebuilding a life. Chen sent final paperwork the week before Thanksgiving. All appeals exhausted, payments scheduled, legal matters concluded. He'd guided me through the worst year of my life with professionalism and unexpected kindness. I sent a thank you note and a bottle of good scotch. Some debts couldn't be paid in billable hours. Thanksgiving dinner felt almost normal. My brother brought his fiancée. My sister's kids had grown taller, lost teeth, developed personalities. We went around the table sharing gratitudes. When my turn came, I mentioned health, family present, future possibilities. Nobody mentioned who was missing. Black Friday found me helping my girlfriend move furniture in her apartment. Her ex had finally retrieved his belongings, leaving space to rearrange. We worked together easily, debating placement, compromising on aesthetics. Building something new required clearing out the old first. The weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas compressed into routine. Work parties I actually attended. Shopping for gifts with thought rather than obligation. Decorating the new house minimally, but genuinely. Life had developed its own momentum, no longer defined by what was lost. Christmas Eve service at Mom's old church. I hadn't attended in years, but something drew me back. The familiar hymns, the candlelight, the sense of community. My siblings sat beside me, our own children's absence a different kind of loss. We sang quietly, remembered better times, found comfort in tradition. Christmas morning alone by choice. My girlfriend with her kids, maintaining their traditions. My siblings with their families, creating new memories. I made coffee, watched snowfall, felt genuinely content. Solitude wasn't loneliness when chosen rather than imposed. A package arrived with no return address. Inside, a compass on a chain. No note, but I recognized Dad's meaning. I held it for a moment, considering, then dropped it in the donation box with other unwanted gifts. Some gestures came too late. Some directions couldn't be recovered once lost. New Year's Eve with friends this time. A small gathering, good food, better company. At midnight, kissing my girlfriend while snow fell outside. The future finally held more promise than the past held pain. Time really did heal, even wounds that seemed fatal. January 2nd, back to routines. Work, exercise, relationship, family. Life reassembled from broken pieces into something different but functional. Not the life I'd planned, but the one I'd built from what remained. Smaller, perhaps, but more honest. The anniversary of the party confrontation passed almost unnoticed. Just another day in February, remarkable only for its unremarkability. The date had lost its power to wound. Time had transformed trauma into history, acute pain into dull memory. My phone rang one evening. Unknown number, local area code. Against better judgment, I answered. Chen's voice, urgent. Dad had been in an accident. Serious, but stable. He'd listed me as emergency contact, despite everything. The hospital needed decisions about treatment. I sat with the information for a long moment, then gave Chen my brother's number. Some responsibilities couldn't be maintained just because of biology. Dad had made his choices. Their consequences included losing the right to my concern. March brought engagement news. My brother proposed during a Seattle sunset. My sister and I would stand as witnesses. Small ceremony, family only. The invitation list carefully curated to exclude certain names. Building new happiness required protecting it from old poison. The wedding in April. Simple, genuine, full of joy, untainted by what was missing. My brother radiant with his bride. My sister and I flanking them. Reformed family unit standing strong. Photos would show complete happiness. Only we would know who wasn't there. Afterward, at the reception, my grandmother's empty chair more noticeable than Dad's. Her absence felt clean, natural. His felt like amputation. But phantom limbs eventually stopped aching. The family had learned to function without poisoned parts. May brought 2 years since Vegas. I realized only when Chen sent tax documents related to the settlement. The date had passed without recognition, no longer circled in mental red, healing measured in forgetting to remember. My girlfriend suggested moving in together, a big step, requiring trust I'd thought permanently broken. We discussed it rationally: finances, chores, space requirements, the practical details easier than the emotional leap. But something in me had rebuilt enough to try. June 1st, boxes and furniture combining, her books mixing with mine, kitchen gadgets negotiating counter space, two lives carefully merging, aware of previous failures but willing to risk. The house felt fuller, warmer, more like home than it had in years. Summer settled into new rhythms: shared morning coffee, divided household tasks, navigating each other's moods and needs. Building something sustainable required daily choices, small kindnesses, honest communication, everything my first marriage had lacked. The financial settlement from Dad completed in July. Final payment received, legal obligations concluded. Chen closed the file, wished me well. The last official connection severed. Whatever relationship remained existed only in DNA and memory. August brought unexpected peace. 2.5 years of anger, hurt, legal battles, family destruction, all fading into background noise. Life had moved forward despite everything. New love, stable family, personal growth. The destruction had cleared space for rebuilding. I passed Serena's old yoga studio, now a juice bar. Felt nothing. Drove by Dad's former office, under new ownership. No emotional response. The landmarks of betrayal had become just buildings. Their power to wound had expired. September marked the beginning of year 3. My girlfriend and I hosted dinner for friends. My sister's family came. Normal life, unremarkable in its stability. We'd all survived the implosion, reformed into something different but functional. The doorbell rang during dessert. Dad stood on the porch, older, grayer, diminished. He'd tracked down my new address, driven over uninvited. Behind him, the woman Tom had mentioned. She looked nervous, uncertain why her boyfriend's son wouldn't welcome them. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, told him he wasn't welcome, that some choices had permanent consequences, that showing up didn't erase betrayal. His girlfriend's confusion turned to understanding as she pieced together what he'd done. They left without argument. Dad's shoulders slumped but accepting. He'd tried. I'd refused. Both of us playing our assigned roles in the aftermath. Some stories didn't get happy endings. Some relationships couldn't be salvaged. Back inside, nobody asked about the interruption. They'd recognized his voice, understood my choice. The dinner continued, warm and full of laughter. Family redefined by loyalty rather than blood. Later, helping with dishes, my girlfriend squeezed my hand. No questions, just support. She'd learned my boundaries, respected my need to protect what we'd built. The past wouldn't be allowed to poison the future. That night, lying in bed, I felt the last weight lift. Dad's attempted reconciliation had tested my resolve. I'd passed. The anger was gone, replaced by indifference. The opposite of love wasn't hate. It was nothing. Morning came with its routine comfort. Coffee, shower, work preparation. My girlfriend humming in the kitchen. Plans for the weekend. Life continuing its forward motion, no longer haunted by what was lost. The story could end here. Betrayal discovered, consequences delivered, life rebuilt. Not perfectly, but sufficiently. The family tree pruned of diseased branches, smaller but healthier. New growth beginning where old growth was severed. But stories don't really end. They just stop being told. Somewhere, Dad lived with his choices. Serena battled her demons. My siblings and I carried forward, damaged but determined. Life continued its messy, imperfect progression. The compass tattoo that once guided Dad home had led him astray instead. But I'd found my own direction without inherited navigation, built my own definition of family, success, happiness. The coordinates of my life no longer included them. 3 years after Vegas, I rarely thought about it. The betrayal that once defined me had become just another chapter in a longer story. Not forgotten, but integrated. Part of my history without controlling my future. My phone buzzed with a text. My girlfriend, sending a funny meme from work. I smiled, responded with matching humor. Small moments of connection, building something real through daily choices. Love rebuilt on stronger foundations. The house felt full of life again, plants thriving, walls covered with new memories, rooms echoing with laughter instead of silence. What they'd broken, I'd rebuilt differently. What they'd stolen, I'd replaced with something better. Evening fell with its familiar rhythms. Dinner together, discussing our days, television companionship, comfortable silence. Building a life required no grand gestures, just consistent presence. Everything my father had failed to understand. I thought about the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd carried me on his shoulders, who'd been my hero before becoming my betrayer. That man had died in a Vegas hotel room, replaced by a stranger who shared his face. The grief for that loss had finally processed, not for who he became, but for who he'd been. The father I'd loved existed only in memory now. The man who'd stolen my wife was someone else entirely, unworthy of my pain. My girlfriend called from the kitchen, asking about weekend plans. I joined her, discussing options, making decisions together. Building a future required letting go of the past. I'd finally learned the difference between moving on and running away. The compass pointed forward now, to possibilities rather than pain. The coordinates of home no longer included those who'd chosen betrayal over family. I'd found my own true north, guided by lessons learned from their failures. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Next month, next year, the ongoing work of living. But tonight, in this house, with this person, in this life, I'd rebuilt from ruins. Tonight, I was home.